What's up, guys? Back with another video. So, in this video, we are going to destroy the myth of clean eating. Now, I know there's some of you out there saying, what the hell is Lane talking about? This is ridiculous. Like, here he goes again on his blah, blah, blah flexible dieting thing. Well, I want you guys to understand something. When I first got into bodybuilding, I just wanted to do the best thing to get jacked. That was it. I thought that was eating quote unquote clean. And what I found that over time, while I could get results doing that, and plenty of people do, I would find that it was almost impossible to stick to year round. And in the off season, I would gain much more body fat than I wanted to. And then I'd have to spend more time cutting it off. But I found subjectively, not even through reading research, but subjectively through allowing myself more flexibility, I was able to be more adherent during my off season, stay leaner, and then when it came time for contest prep, I was able to get in better shape and still incorporate more flexibility. So I discovered flexible dieting because as a way for me to do better, for me to be better, for me to improve more, not as a way for me to eat junk food. So then as I started looking at the research data as I was in graduate school, you started to realize that a lot of the research out there is misinterpreted. People don't understand the difference between correlation and causation. So let's destroy the myth of clean eating real quick. First off, one of the biggest things is the word clean eating has no objective definition. There is not a single way you can define clean eating objectively. People want to say, well, no added chemicals. Everything's a chemical. Everything. This watch is made up of chemicals. I'm made up of chemicals. The air is made up of chemicals. Water is made up of chemicals. Every single thing in existence is a chemical. Okay? Now, I guess if you wanted to get down to like quantum mechanics and quarks and stuff, you could say, well, they're technically not chemicals, but they're small parts of chemicals. Okay? So everything is a chemical. So this whole no added chemicals, okay. Then people say, well, no processed food. Well, every food is processed to a certain extent. And so that doesn't fly. Organic food, there really is no good definition of organic either, okay? Organic simply means carbon-based. So by that definition, aren't all foods organic? So the problem is with regards to clean eating, vegetarians will say, well, meat is not clean. Whereas bodybuilders will say, meat is clean, fruit and dairy aren't clean. Or, well, not always. It's weird about dairy, but, sugar is not clean. And then you'll talk to somebody who's in paleo, and they'll say, no, meats are good, starches are bad. Get rid of all starches. Then people on ketogenic, they'll say, well, carbohydrates are bad, those aren't clean, but you can have as much cashews and stuff as you want. Well, what it boils down to, guys, is energy balance. It's that simple, okay? The calories you consume versus the calories that you burn on a day-to-day basis. Now, are there factors that affect how many calories you consume and how many calories you burn based on your food choice? Absolutely. 100% absolutely. And so you have to look at the context of one food versus another in terms of how they affect thermogenesis and satiety. But you can still make decisions with the understanding of what the outcomes of those are. So at the end of the day, your diet is a budget. And let's just take fat loss, because there's more people who are looking to lose fat than gain muscle for the most part, especially if we talk about Gen Pop. You have a budget, okay? And your budget is for how many calories you have during the day. If you want to lose fat, you need to eat less calories than you burn. okay? Just like if you want to save money, you need to spend less than you make, okay? Well, it's also, you can look at it like gas in a car, okay? The foods you eat are your fuel. Now, I can put in high octane gas. And will my car run a little bit better? Sure, but it costs more money, okay? I can put in lower octane gas and my car will still run, maybe not as optimal performance, but it'll still run and I'll save some money. So it just depends on your goals and the context of the situation. But let's look at some things that affect energy balance. One thing is, in terms of food choices, fiber increases thermogenesis. It's also very filling, so it improves satiety. And because it improves satiety, increases thermogenesis, eating more fibrous foods may have a favorable outcome for fat loss, because it can help you consume low calories but still stay full, plus providing a thermogenic effect. Protein helps spare lean body mass and build lean body mass, and is also thermogenic, about as thermogenic as fiber, okay? So again, when we look at this equation and people say, well, look at this study where they ate this versus this, and they had better fat loss in this group, like a ketogenic diet. Well, that group might have been consuming more fiber or protein or both, okay? And that can completely explain the differences, right? It's not magic foods, it's the fact that some foods have more fiber, more protein than others. And in fact, in almost every single study that has controlled actually every single study where they control calories and protein, they don't even have to control fiber, but they control calories and protein. There was a recent paper that just came off on this, and I'll link it in the description. They've shown zero difference in fat loss. I'll say it again. When they control calories and protein, zero difference in fat loss, whether you're doing higher carb or lower carb, okay? So, in my opinion, carbohydrates themselves are not, this whole insulin carbohydrate theory of obesity is simply not true. It's been disproven. If it was true, if you controlled calories and protein and had high carb versus low carb, you would see improved fat loss in the low carb group, but that's not what you see, okay? Now, let's talk about some aspects of food that we consider, that many people consider not clean, right? So sugar is a great example of that. Most people out there will say, well, you can't tell me that that soda and sugar and all this stuff is okay. You know, this whole flexible dieting thing, these are not good for your health. Well, sugar isn't necessarily bad for your health. Sugar is problematic because it's not filling. Foods that are high in sugar are typically not filling. They're also easier to overeat on. However, have you ever wondered why sugar, while it's associated with obesity, there's no association with fruit consumption with obesity? Fruit is very high in sugar. If sugar was causing obesity, if sugar was causing fat gain, you would expect to see fruit also have a negative impact on body composition, but that's not what you see. There's a few reasons for that. One, fruit has fiber, okay? So by eating more fibrous foods, higher thermogenic response, more filling, more satiety. But if you control calories, what you find is that high sugar versus low sugar makes zero difference on fat loss. In fact, I'm going to link a myriad of studies in this link, and we're talking about even like 11 grams of sugar per day versus over 100 grams of sugar per day did not produce a difference in fat loss when calories were controlled, okay? Now, people will say, well, what about their health markers, though? I mean, fat loss is one thing, but it can't be good for their health. They both, in high sugar and low sugar groups, improved their blood cholesterol, improved their blood lipids, improved markers of inflammation, improved all these health markers. The only difference between the groups was the group eating the lower sugar diet improved their blood cholesterol slightly more than the group that was eating high sugar. Now both groups improved, okay? That's important to point out, they both improved. So the improvement is mostly a weight loss thing or a fat loss thing. Now, I think I can easily explain the difference between the two groups. That is, when you are eating a low sugar diet, you're often eating more fiber. Fiber binds with cholesterol and causes you to excrete it, okay? So that would, I think if you equated for fiber in that study, you would see no difference in cholesterol. But again, these are things that are important to keep in mind, because if you're going to eat a high sugar diet, you're going to have to supplement with fiber, or you're going to have to eat really, really dense sources of fiber in order to get your fiber high enough. Now fat is very similar. A lot of people say, well, what about saturated fat? Saturated fat's bad for you. Actually, saturated fat has been demonized in the media. And if you look at the actual direct intervention research, it just doesn't hold up. Increasing saturated fat intake increases cholesterol production, at least in the short term, but it doesn't seem, when you trade calorie for calorie, that saturated fat has a negative effect on heart disease. So I think it's very important to understand context, okay? So why do we see these associations with sugar and fat? Well, we see them because people are more likely to overeat on sugar and fat. It's very hard to overeat on protein. It's more likely to overeat on carbs and fat. And so we see this because people consuming higher carb or higher fat diets tend to eat more total calories. And that's the effect we're seeing. Now, some other kind of food categories that people try to avoid that aren't clean. Dairy, I have no earthly idea, I think this must have come from vegans, why people think dairy is bad for them. If you are lactose intolerant or have a lactalbumin sensitivity, then by all means eliminate dairy. You should not have it. But if you tolerate lactose just fine and you don't have a lactalbumin sensitivity or any other sensitivity to any allergens in milk, then all the studies show that milk consumption is associated with better health markers, more lean body mass, better body composition, less fat. So, and I'll link some of those studies in the description below. So I think that dairy is completely fine. In fact, it's very macro friendly, especially things like Greek yogurt, great source of protein and high quality protein. Gluten. Gluten's another one. People eliminate gluten. There's very little evidence that gluten is a direct contributor to health issues, with the caveat that people with celiac should avoid gluten at all costs. Celiac is a disease where people have leaky gut syndrome, or a leaky gut, and molecules of gliadin, which is a protein in gluten, can cause an allergic response. So we've kind of gone through all those things. The one other thing I'll say is that the other problem with clean eating or restrictive dieting is there's studies that have found it to be associated with binge eating behavior. And so you have a higher probability of binge eating, and the studies also show that people who have restrictive dieting practices, who quote unquote eat clean, actually over time have a greater association with disinhibition, which is binging, and weight gain and weight circumference than people who followed a flexible dieting model. And I'll quote some of those studies in the description below. So the point is, there are no clean foods, there are no quote unquote healthy foods. Every food has to be looked at in context. So why would I choose a Pop-Tart over a bowl of oatmeal? Well, maybe I really want that Pop-Tart. And if my total calories, my budget is high enough, and I can still hit my fiber targets, my protein targets, I still get in my micronutrients, then there's nothing wrong with that Pop-Tart. But if eating that Pop-Tart is going to cause me to go over my daily calories and not hit my fiber goals and not hit my micronutrient goals, then there's something wrong with it, okay? But it's like a budget. If you are a millionaire, can you afford to go out and drop $60,000 on a sports car? Well, probably, as long as you still take care of your mortgage and you take care of your health insurance and all these other things. Now, if you only make $50,000 a year, is it smart to go out and spend $60,000 on a sports car if you can't pay your mortgage and you can't pay your bills and you can't pay for retirement and you can't take care of your kids' college and all that kind of stuff? No, because those things are bigger priorities, right? Same thing with food. If you've got a ton of calories left over because you have a fast metabolism, you've budgeted well, and you decide you want to spend that on cheesecake, but you're still going to hit your macros, you're still going to hit your fiber, you're still going to hit your protein, you're still going to get your micronutrients in, then there's nothing wrong with that. And there's zero evidence that it's going to cause you health problems. So I'm not saying you have to go out and eat sugar, eat a bunch of fat, anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you have the choice of flexibility. And flexibility allows you to be more adherent. And the research suggests that if you are flexible in your dieting approach, you will have better adherence. Better adherence means more consistency. More consistency means more time getting towards your goals. Okay? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discussion in the comments. I'm welcome to that. Anything that you have that maybe you think I'm wrong. If you can provide some scientific references, I would appreciate it. But I think a lot of the scientific references people will provide will be correlation studies. Remember, correlation is not causation, okay? Most people who get fat because they eat a lot of sugar or eat a lot of fat, that's because they're consuming extra calories. They're not replacing that with anything, okay? So if you drink 3 sodas a day, but you don't correspondingly reduce your carbohydrate intake from other foods, you are literally just adding hundreds of calories on top of what you're already consuming. Of course you'll gain weight. But if you take something that's high sugar, and you say this has 50 grams of sugar, so I'm taking 60 grams of carbs, 40 grams of sugar, whatever. So I'm taking the same amount of carbohydrate out of some other food during the day, or other foods during the day, and you're still able to hit those check marks we talked about, there's no reason that it's going to hurt you, okay? What I want to point out is that there just simply are not magic foods. Everything we've discussed, every reason that something may affect thermodynamics or satiety, there is an explanation for it. And it's definitely not that there are magic foods. It doesn't mean that you may make certain food selections over others based on satiety, based on thermogenesis, based on your goals, all those sorts of things. That absolutely is relevant. The point is, it isn't magic. And the point is, clean eating is a myth. I'll catch you guys next time.